This is Local 3 in your town.
Welcome one and all to another 30-minute edition of Local 3 in your town, where we celebrate the people, places, and things that make this area so unique and so wonderful. Got 30 full minutes for you this week. Goodness gracious, we're going to be talking about whiskey. We're going to be talking about Jesus. We're going to be talking about birds of prey, and of course a couple of history lessons as well. This first story is about how disease helped shape the city of Chattanooga. We're talking about the yellow fever epidemic, and we're talking about the Spanish flu of 1918 and 1919. Often when we talk about the development of this region, we mention notable figures, geography, topography, industrialization, but we would be remiss if we did not include how illness helped play a role in the shaping of this city. Take, for example, Chattanooga's first neighborhood, St. Elmo. St. Elmo is a direct product of the 1878 yellow fever epidemic. For those of you who don't know, in 1878, 366 lives were lost to yellow fever in just a 2.5-month period. Now, those with financial liberties were able to escape by moving to places like Signal Mountain, Lookout Mountain, or Missionary Ridge. But for those who needed to stay close to the city and just far enough away, they expanded about 4.5–5 miles out so they could still commute and yet feel safe in the evening. The yellow fever epidemic was a mosquito-borne illness, and as the temperatures grew colder here in the Chattanooga area, the mosquitoes died, and with that did the illness. And for the next few years, the city of Chattanooga celebrated health, wellness, and prosperity. In the spring of 1918, just as World War I was starting to wind down, Mother Nature unleashed the deadliest strain of influenza in modern history. The virus infected as much as 40% of the global population over the next 18 months. Of these, an estimated 20 to 50 million people perished, more than the roughly 17 million people killed during the First World War. Back in Chattanooga, the spring and summer months of 1918 went by without any confirmed cases of the Spanish flu. Nonetheless, on September 24th, federal and local officials conferred on possible precautions should the disease reach the area. On October 7th, theaters were closed and visitation at the county jail curtailed. Schools were officially closed on October the 9th and public gatherings curtailed. A Baptist Bible conference was canceled. Stores were ordered to fumigate twice a day until officially closing on October the 12th. As a result, Market Street was expected to be like a, quote, deserted country road. A report published on October 11th estimated there were 2,763 cases of the flu at the post and 7,000 cases in the city and the suburbs. By October 21st, 99 deaths were reported in the city. With churches and schools now being closed, teachers and ministers were asked to contribute to society in a different way. Teachers often helping out at local soup kitchens, ministers visiting the sick house to house as the weeks wore on. You have to understand there was no effective way to fight this virus. Alexander Fleming wouldn't develop penicillin for another 10 years. So the question was asked, what is the best way to fight this illness? The answer was the face mask. And I'll tell you, the United States government did not care about your feelings when it came to masking up. President Woodrow Wilson's administration released a public service announcement to be printed nationwide, reading in part, influenza probably spreads mostly by inhaling some of the tiny droplets of germ-laden mucus sprayed into the air when ignorant or careless persons sneeze or cough without using a handkerchief. Therefore, cover up each cough and sneeze. Mask mandates and no spitting rules were put in place all across the country. And in New York City, they asked you not to do any kissing without a handkerchief between you and the recipient of said kiss. It is believed scientifically that the Spanish flu eventually evolved into a less deadly form that, combined with herd immunity, resulted in the end of the pandemic, but not before 500,000 American lives were lost, 7,700 of which in the state of Tennessee. Of those 7,700, though, 5,848 deaths here in Chattanooga. Those can be attributed to the Spanish flu outbreak of 1918 and 1919. A little historic perspective for you. Keeping up with that theme, let's talk about the early 1900s here in Chattanooga. We were known for a few things: Reconstruction after the Civil War, locomotives, a lot of ingenuity. We were the first city to have a power substation south of the Mason-Dixon line. But Chattanoogans were also well known for their love of spirits. Historically speaking, Chattanoogans loved their whiskey. I'm not here to judge. I don't want to say they loved it too much, But pre-Prohibition, for example, there was a real good chance that you knew the name of your distiller, and he probably knew your name as well.
1866 to 1915, there's documentation of a lot of distilleries, north of 30 distilleries in downtown's region, when there were less than 30,000 people that lived in Chattanooga. So basically a distillery for every 1,000 people.
Chattanooga was, in fact, considered a distilling hub with more than 30 distillers and 98 liquor dealers coming into establishment at the turn of the century. But the tides turned. In fact, in 1909, Prohibition took effect in Tennessee 10 years prior to the national prohibition, much to the chagrin of the population and even the police commissioner who was caught smuggling whiskey out of the state in coffins.
2011, my co-founder and I, in October of 2011, we discovered the history of whiskey in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we saw a great opportunity to bring whiskey distilling back to Chattanooga for the first time in 100 years because it was previously illegal, or even at the time it was still illegal, but we had to change those laws in order to make that happen.
That is correct. Before the first of their spirits were distilled, Chattanooga Whiskey worked with local commissioners to change local laws. With support from the community, commission voted 7-0 to adopt a non-binding resolution to the General Assembly requesting the state law be amended. Nearly 2 years later, Governor Haslam signed the so-called whiskey bill into law. Now it was time for Chattanooga Whiskey to prove they could produce a drink locals wanted to consume.
What Chattanooga Whiskey is known for is called Tennessee High Malt. We coined and trademarked our own style of bourbon whiskey called Tennessee High Malt, which basically essentially means it is a kind of a deeper, darker, richer, more complex bourbon.
Over the next decade, Chattanooga Whiskey grew by leaps and bounds. The accolades began pouring in. They now provide their spirits to 14 different states. The little startup whiskey company is now making waves.
We're not a contract distiller. We're not producing a variety of labels that are different types of products. If it's not American whiskey or high malt based, again, majority bourbon, we don't make it. And the reason I say that is we're very serious about our craft. And what we've put into Chattanooga Whiskey over the last 10 years, you can expect us to put in over the next 10 years.
I just want to clarify, that was 130 something proof. It hadn't been aged, it hadn't been barreled. That will put hair on your back. All right, coming up after the break, we are going to take a trip to North Georgia to explore one of the most beautiful automobile museums I have ever seen, and you might agree with that. Also, we are going to learn about a church built upon a rock in North Alabama.
This is Local 3 in your town.
Welcome back to this 30-minute edition of Local 3 in your town. We're going to take a trip to Cartersville, Georgia. And if you haven't been in a while, if you've never been, let me kind of set the stage for you. One of the things that Cartersville is known for is their network of museums. We're talking science, we're talking history, we're talking art, and their newest museum, the Savoy Automobile Museum.
Some folks remember seeing these vehicles on the road. Perhaps they have even driven some of them. Others, are seeing them for the first time. But there's such an appreciation for these vehicles and the stories that they tell.
Officially open now between Chattanooga and Atlanta, Savoy Automobile Museum is home to dozens of the world's most beautiful and diverse driving machines.
Some of these cars are part of our permanent collection. We have about 70 cars in the collection. And then we've been very fortunate to have many of these other beautiful vehicles loaned to us from either private collections or other museums.
Through changing exhibits and educational programs, guests have the opportunity to learn about the evolution of car design and their features. Many of these early 1900s vehicles broke molds, like the American-made Tucker.
One of the ones that a lot of people have an interest in is the Cyclops headlight, and it actually turned as you turn the steering column. Some other unique features about the car is that the trunk is actually in the front of the car and the engine is in the back. And it's actually a helicopter engine.
There is purpose in everything you see at this museum, from the 300-seat auditorium to the cafe with its unique ceiling to the Rubik's Cube art on the wall. The beauty of the automobiles is echoed by the beauty around it.
We also thought it would be wonderful to surround these beautiful automobiles with unique pieces of art that are also automotive themed that we had specially curated.
The Savoy Automobile Museum is a program of Georgia Museums, Inc., one of 4 unique museums in the Cartersville area.
For some people that have come into the museum, they're seeing things here that they never thought that they might see in their lifetime. With families coming, multi-generations and such, and being able to share stories about these cars and experiences and that sort of thing. So whether you're somebody that's older or younger, male or female, I think there's something here for everyone to enjoy.
Absolutely worth the drive to Cartersville, Georgia, and check out any of the museums, but make sure you check out the Savoy Automobile Museum's website before you go. They are closed on Monday. It'll tell you all about their hours of operation, price of admission, everything you need to know before you go. All right, speaking of going, let's go west, young man, and check out a church in North Alabama built literally upon a rock. In the book of Matthew in the New Testament, Jesus talks about building his church upon the rock. And for about 2,000 years now, scholars have been debating the contextualization of that Bible verse. Are they talking about Peter being the actual rock? Are they talking about Jesus being the rock? Is there an actual rock that the church is being built on? Well, in 1937, one man from Rainsville, Alabama, wanted to leave nothing to the imagination, and he literally built his church on a rock. The Sally Howard Memorial Chapel, located just outside of DeSoto State Park, was completed in 1937. The church was the brainchild of Milford Ryerson Howard, who by most accounts seems to have been a genuine eccentric. Born in 1862, Howard taught himself to law, and despite having little formal education, at age 19 became one of the state's youngest attorneys. He went into politics and, after writing a book entitled If Christ Came to Congress, was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Howard had presidential aspirations but failed to win the Independence Party's nomination in 1908. Shortly thereafter, he wound up in Hollywood, where he was a scriptwriter before returning to the Mentone area in the 1920s. Meanwhile, a tragedy had inspired him to build a church. Howard's first wife, Sally, had died in California. Although Howard went on to have various misadventures, including remarriage and honeymooning to meet Mussolini, he never abandoned his secret dream of building a chapel to honor his first wife. In the 1930s, as his health failed, he found the ideal spot for his church. Assisted by workers from the CCC and local residents, Howard literally built his church around the rock, which extends to the rear wall of the pulpit area. According to his last request, he was cremated and his ashes placed inside the boulder he had made into a church. Coming up after the break, we are checking in with our friends at Reflection Riding, Arboretum, and Nature Center. They always have something going on, and this one was a cool one. You have the opportunity to venture with a vulture.
This is Local 3 in your town.
Welcome back to this 30-minute edition of Local 3 in your town. And I have to say, in the past 5.5 years that I have called Chattanooga home, I think I've spent more time at Reflection Riding, Arboretum, and Nature Center than just about anywhere else. And that is because they offer so many different ways to get out and learn about nature. They work diligently to provide programs for both you and I and everybody else. This newest program, called Venture with the Vulture, might have you looking at birds of prey in a different way.
So the name of the program that we're doing is called Venture with Vlad the Vulture, who is my awesome black vulture friend. He is one of the coolest birds that I get to work with.
Director of Avian Conservation Taylor Berry is excited to introduce a new program at Reflection Riding and Arboretum to help showcase one of nature's most important creatures.
They're garbage disposal, really. right? So after something eats and all its leftovers get left there, it's these guys' job to come over and clean the rest of that up, as well as they actually help prevent spread of diseases. So when an animal dies of a disease, vultures have a very strong stomach acid that is basically immune to just about anything. And so they can come and eat that diseased animal, and then the transmission of that disease stops with the vulture.
Throughout your half-mile excursion across the grounds, you'll have the opportunity to learn a lot of creepy and cool facts about these birds.
They have a visual memory just like we do. So as we're walking through that parking lot, he knows exactly where he is. And they're also amazing problem solvers. And so that's why if you ever come out here and look in his enclosure, you see puzzles and games for him to play because he needs his brain stimulated constantly.
These brainy birds rely on a little commensalism with their cousins, the turkey vulture.
So turkey vultures are the only bird that we have in North America that can smell. And they can smell methane gas. So when an animal dies, in the first 4 days of its death, it actually will release methane gas. So turkey vultures and black vultures are communal with each other and will live together. The turkey vulture will take off first, and they will smell that methane gas while they're circling around in the air. The black vultures are actually watching the turkey vulture, waiting for it to start to drop. And then all the black vultures will get up and follow the turkey vulture to the food.
An important part of our ecosystem, there is much to celebrate about the black vulture.
I know this sounds a little crazy, but literally, if it was not for their role in nature, the way we live today could not be possible, because we would have so many just rampant diseases running around through the forest, as well as just the amount of carrion and dead bodies of animals laying around in our forest. They literally clean up after all the other animals. And if it was not for that, it would be a lot grosser place to live.
There is always something going on at Reflection Riding, from basket weaving to mushroom harvesting to all the different ways you can appreciate the animals that they have there. Always feel free to check out their website. I'm sure there's something for you and yours to enjoy. All right, speaking of enjoyment, after the break, we are headed back to the kitchen. We are going to make a breadless pepperoni breadstick. It is keto friendly. It is delicious. We'll show you how to make it after this.
This is Local 3 in your town.
Welcome back, everyone. Time to hit the kitchen with Claire. This time we are putting together a breadless pepperoni breadstick as Claire and I attempt to eat healthier in 2022. Welcome back to the kitchen, everybody. Hopefully your new year is off to a wonderful start. My name is John. This is Claire. Say hi, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
Listen, I'm not one that subscribes to New Year, New Me, but Fatty needed to drop some pounds. I went from gaunt to girth as I came to Chattanooga. We're trying to find middle ground. So we're eating a little bit healthier, but only dipping our toe in the water right now. Claire, we're putting together a what?
A low-carb pepperoni breadstick.
Yeah, it actually involves no bread, but it does involve parchment paper. This might be the one ingredient that or thing that you don't have in your house. So
we're not eating it.
No, not this time. Whew! But man, do I have a funny story for you. Okay, let's get started. We have lined our baking sheet with parchment paper. We are preheating our oven at 350 degrees. It's ready. Now we're gonna go ahead and start putting the ingredients together. And when I say the ingredients together, I mean like 3.5 ingredients together. Here we go. 1 cup of mozzarella, 1 cup of Parmesan, 1 egg, and seasoning to your flavor. Claire? That's your cue.
And go. Amigo.
Amigo, amiga, get to it either way, friend. Job well done. Now we're just gonna use our hand, get in there, and this is going to be the base of the breadstick. This, I guess, would be considered the pizza crust. Exactly. So just a little bit of churning and burning, and then we're gonna patty cake. Did mine as well, a little bit bigger, not really good.
Well,
with noting sizes. And here's where it gets extremely customizable. Go ahead with your banana peppers. I'm just doing pepperoni just to kind of show everybody. Ooh, that smells good though.
I know.
Yeah, okay. Bacon is an option. Mushrooms are an option. Literally, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
When you feel good about it, 350 degrees for 15 minutes, and there's the possibility that you're going to want to broil it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come. What are you laughing at me for? Broil it.
When we come back to it, I don't know.
Everybody's a critic. Everybody's a critic.
It smells good.
Yeah, it does smell great, and it looks great. Check this out. I didn't know what it was. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say like it tastes exactly like a real pizza.
No, it does
but
not.
It's a fun little mix-up.
It's a good little snack, and I think the seasoning helps a whole heck of a lot.
Oh yeah.
But this is,
And you could add in like some basil. There's so much you could do with it. Look at you loving the low carb.
I'm an athlete now. This is wonderful. All right, everybody, have fun in the kitchen. Yeah, and until next time.
Can't wait to see what we come up with next.
Enjoy. I promise, it's really, really good. You can always go to John Martin 3 for the full recipe, as well as hundreds and hundreds of other stories and ideas to help get you plugged into the community, because it is absolutely a wonderful place to live, work, and play. That is our time, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this 30-minute edition of Local 3 in your town. Until next time, be good to yourself and to others.
This is Local 3 in your town.